So, I don't know if you've heard, but we're all gonna fucking die. Just not straight away and not all at once. On the outside, in the wildlands, as I like to call them, the shops have gone a bit mental. But what with Christmas and Black Friday every year, are we really that surprised that there's a minority of people that will punch a pensioner in the face for a packet of loo rolls or some bread? I'm not. Now, I'm all for laughing at the stupidity of others, but when you're being selfish pricks, I feel as though I have to call you out for being selfish pricks, which isn't funny and it's difficult to make a joke about, so fuck you! Put the fucking toilet paper back. Half these cunts look like they could survive for 6 months with no food based on the body mass that they've previously acquired anyway, the fat pricks. If we did run out of food, we should turn on them first. We'd be all fed for weeks. Somehow, in an unprecedented feat of mental gymnastics that can only really be applauded for its audacity and its originality, it transpires that if you voted Tory, this whole thing is your fault. For your information, I'm still tracking the very best conspiracy theories to determine when it's originated and who is to blame, China, and we'll talk more about that in the future. But Tory voters, I mean, come on. If you're asking me who'd shot that pheasant or opened an offshore account, then I'd be inclined to agree with you. Yep, definitely a Tory. To cheer myself up, I got dressed yesterday for my big day out at the pub, which involves walking down and staring at it from a distance. I saw my neighbour on the way out, whose dog went up to greet me. Bending down to give it a fuss, I realised that this was the first living creature I'd touched in almost a month. Well, other than a mozzie that I caught mid-air like a fucking ninja. And myself, but I don't want to talk about that. Talking of self-entitlement, Danny Rose seems to think he's more important than everybody else. At a time when us non-key workers are being told that we can and will slowly start going back to work, Danny Rose, in his own words, isn't prepared to be treated like a lab rat. A lab rat, for fuck's sake. He's quite happy to let key workers and NHS staff put themselves and their families at risk for weeks on end, yet as soon as he's requested to go to work in probably the safest environment available for a monumental amount of money, instead of kicking a ball, this cunt's kicking off. Again, get fucked, Danny. Sorry to burst your bubble, but the real world is out here and you need to man up and earn your fucking wage, you prick. If you're that worried, refuse to play and don't take any wages. You can afford it, and of all the Premier League players that we might miss, you ain't fucking one of them. Good news, everyone. Turns out the experts are completely wrong. All our government, NHS staff, and all their superiors are liars, and it's all one big conspiracy theory so that Bill Gates can control and track us. Sounds farcical, right? I'll talk you through it. So apparently, Bill Gates wants to track the populace with a microchip administered via syringe disguised as a COVID-19 vaccine. Because apparently the founder of Microsoft isn't aware mobile phones exist. It's like a Scooby-Doo movie, only the writers decided to smoke some crack first. Worryingly, anti-vaxxers are coming out in droves. It'll be rashes next. Hopefully you'll understand, because although you think you're sceptical and woke, what you actually are is uneducated and fucking gullible. I use natural remedies and supplements because prescribed drugs are just income revenues for Big Pharma. Somehow missing the point that they're still paying money, only the product hasn't been tested and probably doesn't work. As alluded to previously, the other conspiracy theory doing the rounds at the moment is that 5G causes COVID-19, because correlation always equals causation, right? Right. Got fucking caught out this week on Thursday, didn't I? Startled. Minding my own business, stuck in the gulag, and out of nowhere, there's a huge fucking bang. Almost shit myself. Anyway, it became apparent this wasn't a threat when the clapping instantly followed, as well as the pop banging and the woos of middle-aged women like they're at a fucking Robbie Williams concert. I was taken somewhat by surprise when a trumpet piped up. Pun intended. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but it was playing The Last Post, a song played at funerals of fallen American soldiers. I can't work out the relationship between that song and the NHS, but I guess crayon-drawn pictures of rainbows aren't exactly saving the world either, so fuck it, crack on I suppose. I might sound like I'm moaning, but I am British and that is my prerogative. Our ancestors pillaged and raped and colonised the world for me to have this right. The least we can do is fucking make the most of it. Talking of Karens, they've come out in their droves recently. The real murder hornets were here all along, and now with limited customer service desks to frequent and terrorise, they've taken to the internet and being social distance vigilantes. Even football has been infested. Null and void saves lives, shout the fans. These are the same people who are pleading for McDonald's to reopen because although lives are more important than football, Big Macs and nuggets come first. This started as an investigation into COVID-19, but with the amount of theories and unreliable information in there, I don't really want to start pointing fingers. Besides, women got proper annoyed when I accused them of all conspiring, and I ain't making that mistake again. It doesn't matter anyway, because watching society's reaction is far more fucking amusing, so whatever hole this virus crawled out from, let's hope it crawls back in as soon as it possibly can, so that Liverpool can win the league like the whole fucking country wants us to. Stay the fuck alert, people. People were so alert, in fact, they managed to spot Dominic Cummings making an unnecessary journey to have his fucking eyes tested or some shit, I don't know. What I do know is that the media was so appalled by Mr Cummings' lack of social distancing that they themselves seemed to completely forget social distancing to get answers as to why Mr Cummings forgot about social distancing. It's a real fucking shit show. Some say, with the glorious benefit of hindsight, that we should have locked down incoming flights sooner. Some people suggested this at the time, but they were shut down and labelled bigoted racists and instead encouraged to hug a Chinese person to prove how progressive they are and repent for their sinful views. That worked out well, didn't it? No prizes for guessing which demographic it is boiling my piss on this issue at the moment, because it sure as hell ain't black people. Yep, you got it. White middle-class liberals, all out to prove that they are the least racist progressives and with a mission to out the racists who question any dynamic of the movement whatsoever. You're part of the problem, even if you've done fuck all wrong. Oh, but you're only part of the problem for certain issues in the world, like racism. I.e., even if you aren't a racist, unless you're actively fighting it, you're part of the fucking problem. I guess in which case, unless you're actively fighting paedophilia, I can label you a fucking nonce. You're the fucking racists. The left has become so obsessed and have gone round tying themselves in so many fucking knots whilst trying to point fingers to out anyone they can as a Nazi that they've become the fucking Nazis. Fuck off. Even black people who have questioned Black Lives Matter have been thrown under the bus and told, actually, we know what's best for you and what you should feel and what you should think, and you must feel oppressed and you must feel victimised, and if you don't, you've been brainwashed by the white male patriarchy. Fuck off. Stop telling people how to feel, how to think, and what their ethnicity, gender, or socio-economic status means to them, you patronising, self-justifying, righteous, deluded pricks. Of course, cancel culture is upon us now, so anything that could be possibly deemed offensive by anyone should be censored and never viewed. If you enjoyed laughing, then I'd make peace with not doing that so often anymore, because after all, humour is offensive. There is, for example, no ironic humour at all in recording people tearing down statues of historic slave owners on a device built by modern slaves, wearing clothes stitched by modern slaves, before relaxing with a coffee, beans picked by modern slaves. Honestly, someday a progressive liberal will look back on your hypocritical actions and deem you no better than Winston Churchill. I mean, who cares if you're offended? That doesn't make you right. I'm offended by Love Island, the Kardashians, and the X Factor. For fuck's sake. These are shows that devalue intelligence and education, instead glorifying glamorous images that 99% of us could never achieve and therefore dumb down the population to a barely skin-deep level and leads to self-hatred and body dysmorphia, particularly in young girls, and it's fucking disgusting. You could be offended by Liverpool Football Club, for fuck's sake. Most people fucking seem to be at the moment, strutting about with their historic success, dehumanising fans of other clubs who haven't had the LFC privilege of being able to point to a trophy count during a heated debate. As a Liverpool fan myself, I'm starting to feel slightly guilty about it now that I'm awake to it. I may even take to Twitter to apologise. Demand action that all football matches end in draws and flaunt how much of a better person I am for understanding that we're all equals. Apparently, the irony of this being the universal sign for OK was lost on some journalists. So, remember, Lip reading is out of the question right now for people who are deaf or hard of hearing due to face masks, and they rely heavily on hand gestures. So don't go and get half of them banned as well because you want to be an online fucking social justice activist and impress your friends, because you're actually about as woke as a grizzly bear in late December. The final call is one to end all forms of racism. Now, I'm not so sure that's a good idea. Racism can be kind of fun. Now, even though I'm not physically in the room with you, trust me, I can feel the tension, but hear me out. Now, my best mate throughout secondary school, high school if you're in America, was a lad named Dom. Here he is. Dom's half Italian, comes from a family with a committed military background, and when we left school, Dom decided that he was going to join the British Army to go and fight the war in Afghanistan, or Iran, or Iraq, or whichever country it was at the time that we were fighting while simultaneously selling weapons to them to fight back with. Anyway, a few days before he was due to go, we sat down together, had a few drinks, got drunk, and engaged in a bit of a heart-to-heart. I said to him, Dom, you're my best mate. If you find yourself out there in the desert, around merciless killers, back against the wall, injured, exhausted, maybe unarmed, little to no way out, you ain't gonna fucking switch sides, are ya? When we hear the word diversity, we automatically think of skin colour, race, nationality, sexuality and religion, thanks to the left-wing propaganda and insistence on group identities. But are we not all individuals? All of whom have our own feelings, thoughts, opinions and actions? Shouldn't intellectual diversity quotas far trump the aspects we don't control, like our skin colour, sexuality and nationality? How we look and our preferences, except you nonces, shouldn't define who we are or what group we belong to. The left used to preach this, and you were right. Where did it all go wrong?